Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk right here on the Geekscape Network. Very excited to be back with each and every one of you as we count the days until Agatha coming along. It's exactly 2 weeks from today that that show will premiere on Disney Plus, and we'll begin our weekly reviews of that. But before we get to that, and before we have next week's episode, where Eric, Mr. Brody, and myself will recap the second season of Hit Monkey, I wanted to do a conversation that, it came up conversationally when we were doing one of our several Deadpool and Wolverine episodes. We were joined by the great Adam Hughezy, the H Man Hughes. And as we were talking about the film, we had, I learned something I didn't know about him. And let's bring Hughezy onto the show. Hughezy, there's a lot of things I don't know about you. But
Happy Beetlejuice week.
that's right. I'm going Friday morning. I will
Ooh.
show up at the theater at I believe 10:45 in the morning, and I'll say Michael Keaton's name 3 times, and we'll see what happens.
Mm.
But what I learned about you, and again, still so many things to learn about Hughezy, is that you have a very interesting take on Avengers Endgame. I don't know anyone who has this take on Avengers Endgame. I want you to just, and I know you have notes, just summarize in a sentence or two your thoughts on Avengers Endgame.
It fucking stinks. It's not my least favorite Marvel film. That honor goes to Thor: Love and Thunder, but uh, Avengers Endgame may be the single most disappointing film I've ever seen for multiple reasons. I remember being very excited for uh, Alien versus Predator because at the
Sure, of course.
time you were just thinking there's no way this will be bad, and then they really proved me wrong.
They
Like
found a way. Yeah.
yeah, it was like they actively had meetings where they says, "Okay, I like this scene, but let's make it shit." And with Avengers Endgame, I didn't like it at the time. A quick backstory is so 2018 was a very rough year for me. I had a lot of health problems, financial problems, and also, frankly, legal problems. And I'll do it again. Uh, so it was towards the end of that year, stuff started to sort of work out better for me. And then I remember literally being in the cinema with a friend and getting a notification from the bank that basically said you're level again. You know, you're back to where you
Sure.
were pre-drama. The police stuff still stuck around for another year though. Yeah, fucking pieces of shit. But I'll do it again. And so I remember just being on cloud nine going in to see Avengers Endgame. I thought Infinity War is still the all-time greatest superhero film I've ever seen. Ant-Man, despite having an anxiety attack in the cinema, I thought I was having a heart attack. I still enjoyed it. Then Captain Marvel, I didn't think it was flawless, but I enjoyed the fact that it was something new and all this stuff. So I thought, right, we're on an incredible run of 2018 films, and Black Panther I love too. This is going to be great, and it was literally within 2 scenes I realized, oh no, this is terrible.
So that was going to be one of the first things I asked you. There are a lot of people who prefer Infinity War. It is looked at easily compared to the Empire Strikes Back of the MCU saga, because it does end in a way of like, oh my god, this is terrible. And as someone who made a decision in the not even the seventh grade, when I was 7 years old, that Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I've never been able to turn my back on that because you make decisions at 7. There's no way that your mind can change over the next 40 plus years. I do understand that people like endings like that, but I feel as though I do like when the story ends, and this story does have an ending, but you don't like the way that it ended. And two scenes it took for you to realize that. That's very quick, because usually a movie that I don't like, sometimes it's a good half hour in before I think, this might not be great. Like the Ben Affleck Daredevil, first half hour, I'm like, this isn't bad. What are people talking about? I'm having fun with this. And then you go at a certain point, oh no.
Was that point when Bullseye was on the plane and Colin Farrell goes, "Just some more peanuts, please."
That might have been it,
And
actually.
you go, "Yeah, that's right," and this is what Hollywood's all about. Yeah, well, I always thought that this film being called Endgame didn't make any sense. It should have been called Avengers Contractual Demands,
So,
because it really became obvious especially for I rewatched it again 2 days ago or
yeah,
whatever. I can't count. Well, you could just see, that happened because that actor said, "I'll only do it if I get to do this plus another 10 million."
sure.
So there was a lot of this. It's the first time when I found the Avengers annoying, and I can tell you what it was that initially put me off in a bad mood. Is that it starts off with the fantastic scene, which I did like, of Hawkeye. He's teaching his kid archery. Him and his family are about to have a barbecue. Oh, although I gotta say, didn't see any grill. You stupid Hawkeye family, idiots. Unless it was sandwiches, but then who goes outside for a sandwich unless you're stupid? So what happens is Hawkeye, whatever his real name is, he goes to
Clint
speak
Barton.
to Clint Barton, and he turns around to speak to his daughter, who's underage. So I didn't have any thoughts like that.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, she is vanished, but you see like a cloud of dust or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And he looks around the tree, can't find her, goes to call out to his family, they're gone. He goes from dad mode to superhero mode, and you think, holy shit, what a way to start this off, considering how Infinity War ended. So you think, wow, we're really off to a dark, somber film, and oh no, they're playing Cumberland Band. You go, what the fuck just happened? You just killed 3 children and a mother, and now we're rocking. And the immediate follow up scene is Downey Jr. and the robot, with Gamora.
Oh, Nebula, right? They're on the
Neb,
spaceship, and and they're yeah, because Gamora is the green one, and Nebula is her blue. She's Scottish, so that's probably why you don't want to learn her name.
yeah, well, I don't see color unlike some people.
Well, yeah, I did have to point out there's this movie it's got a few greens, it's got a couple of blues in it, and even a talking raccoon. So that's true. I do want to put everybody's label on them.
But it was just the fact that they followed up this incredibly intense scene with a game of Tony Stark and Nebula playing. I don't know what you call that, the football thing.
Yeah, I think there is a name for it, but it's just like a little like paper football game, and yeah.
And I always thought that if that entire part could have been edited out, and the opening shot post the Marvel stinger thing was this frail hand touching the smashed up Iron Man helmet. And that's where the film begins, not after they're playing a game of field goals. These guys are crazy. Yeah. They're so depressed that they're playing a fun game.
Yeah.
Tony Stark's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, no one's getting drunk in that scene. I think that right there is very disingenuous. I agree with Hughezy on that. But then don't we follow that scene up with the excitement of a support group?
Not just yet, but because while we're still on that ship, it's like, so in Iron Man 1, Tony Stark made a version of an Iron Man suit while he literally had this, he'd get what, Claymore shells or something in the chest. He's using a magnet to keep it out. He's able to create an Iron Man suit to fight his way out of this. Uh, so we call them migrant cave. I think that's the
I
PC
think
term.
we could call it that. Yeah, there were they were refugees. I think is the term we like to use.
Yeah,
Yes.
dreamers, and so you're telling me that he was able to make a suit out of that in the cave, but he's now on a spaceship with a fucking half robot, and there's no technology there that could be used at all to help fix the ship. I just don't buy that at all.
Well, I assume that there were parts to Nebula that he would have to remove, but my understanding is that she still wanted to be a mother at one point, so she wasn't willing to give up that part. But I do understand. I actually remember when I saw that, and then Carol comes and shows up and is like, "All right, well, I'm gonna rescue you," and then there's like no more to that. I was like, "Oh, I'd really like to see her meet Tony Stark for the first time," and the movie. Look, the movie's over 3 hours as it is, but I just remember thinking that I would be okay if we took some time for the whatever it is, the 50 characters to actually say hello and get to meet each other.
But that's another problem that I have with Captain Marvel in this, not even just this film, but in the film series, is that she's too powerful
Agreed.
to the point where it's like they don't need her. There doesn't need to be an Avengers. She can do it,
That's true.
and that's why it's kind of like there's a really good film directed by Joss Whedon called the Justice League, and it's like, well, why is Batman there? Like, he's literally in some scenes standing watching the rest
Yeah.
of the Justice League do the action for him. It's like, so Batman's unnecessary in this. He's the only one that can be hurt. So don't be there.
I think Batman's usually there to secure the perimeter, basically, and make sure that the other regular people, because again, he's a regular person, that they stay away and don't get hurt. That's probably the best thing for Batman to do. And I don't know what you're talking about when you say Joss Whedon's Justice League. I only know the 4-hour masterpiece that Zack Snyder gave us all on HBO Max, which, speaking of which, people should go over to your channel, Hughezy Entertainment, for the special that I was a part of called Is Zack Snyder a Hack? And I'm not going to spoil it because I bet everyone knows the answer.
Yeah. Athlete's foot is less of a hack than fucking Zack Snyder. He stinks.
But you're
So
excited for the third Rebel Moon film, which should be coming up next year, right?
If there's anything else more exciting, I don't know what I'm going to do. So Captain Marvel goes and saves Nebula and Tony Stark, who weirdly they mention he's been out there for 21 days in space, and his facial hair didn't grow at all.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't have the budget to put a fake beard on him.
Well, he can't jumpstart the ship, but he can use the lasers from his hand to trim the beard, as it were, And I'm sure that he would seek privacy for, let's just say, more personal grooming that he would attend to.
Yeah. And speaking about removing body parts of a woman, Shima can't take that mouth off. Am I right, guys? Bitches. So Captain Marvel saves Tony Stark and Nebula, brings them back to the Avengers compound where they regroup, and then Tony Stark basically tells them, "I'm out. This guy Thanos is unbeatable. We can't do it. I'm not risking it," which I liked because that's sort of realistic. It's like after a fight, if you watch boxing and someone just gets beat by Mike Tyson, they're not going to go, "Yeah, I can't wait to do it again." They're going to go, "No, absolutely not. I can't believe I'm alive."
Yeah.
So there's a regroup scene where it's all very exciting and intense, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, I know where my father is," Nebula says. So they all agree we're going to go, and they quickly all travel out into space, which suddenly the ship is fixed again. I don't know how that happened. But the thing that really annoyed me about that is So you're talking about Steve Rogers, and the thing is, he's still like the old fashioned guy who makes paper notes of songs and films and stuff you should check out.
Yeah.
He just goes directly into space, and he's sitting there like this in the ship. It's like
Yeah.
at no
Well,
point is he going, "Holy fuck, we're in fucking space! Can you believe this shit? I'm with the raccoon, and we're in space. This is
yeah.
mental."
Well, he grew up in Brooklyn, and you kind of see all sorts of things when you grow up there. I mean, maybe not in 1941, but I think you're right though that he more than anyone should have been uh, just had his mind blown by what was about to happen. That they were heading off into space. I mean, Peter Parker gets excited to go into space, and in a lot of ways they're kind of the same guy, but.
Mm.
He's of course dead at this point, though he already disappeared in the previous film.
So they then find the planet where Thanos is, which
Sure.
Captain Marvel is able to search the entirety of the planet in seconds because she's so powerful. She could literally speed through this planet, and she was able to actually find Thanos. Yet instead, she came back for the others, and so right away, um, oh, what did I write? Okay, so they get Thanos. They cut his arm off to get the gauntlet, and then he says, "Oh, I've destroyed the stones. They're all gone." So Thor kills him,
Yeah.
and it's like that's the scene that should have been longer. Like they should have interrogated him. Is he lying? Is he hiding them? What's going on? They said, "No, he's dead," and that's that.
Well, what about Thanos and all the time that they had dealt with him and all the rumors about him would make you think that he's not honest? I understand that Thanos has OCD and his OCD won't let him lie. Now, I might be wrong about that, but that's my understanding of Thanos. By the way,
So
they did Thanos a favor because as I'm talking, I would think about what was left for Thanos to do other than to stream live on YouTube for a couple hours every afternoon, taking super chats where he gets insulted. You killed my family. You destroyed my planet. Fuck you. Here's $2. Thanks for the $2.
if Ryan Reynolds is listening, and I know he is, in your next
Yeah.
Deadpool film you make, Deadpool needs to have a podcast.
Well, I love that idea. And we know that Ant-Man does have a podcast. I'm still waiting for them to actually give us an episode of it. They reference it in Quantum Mania, but we don't actually get to hear it. And speaking of Deadpool, he's in the chat just with a question, just a question mark. So I'm assuming he is just impressed that someone else has the same thoughts on Endgame that Deadpool does.
So Thanos is killed. We get big dramatic music. The screen goes to black. And the worst creative decision in the history of Marvel, even worse than greenlighting She-Hulk, is they go 5 years later.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then we get to 5 years later. Nobody has aged or changed at all. They could have simply done 1 year later and it wouldn't have mattered. And then the thing that was, because I was watching it, by the way, I went to watch this on Disney Plus and it looks terrible on Disney Plus. So instead I watched it on Blu-ray in my home cinema. Thank you.
And I assume that in your home cinema, though, you have a modest screen that's probably, just the size of a computer screen like I'm looking into right now.
It's a teeny tiny 7-foot tall screen that's 9 foot wide.
Wow.
Or maybe you meant the modest surround sound speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are pretty modest, although AC/DC recently borrowed my home cinema speakers to play the show at Croke Park Stadium. Thank you. So,
I'll just interject, by the way. It's always better to, if you have the opportunity to watch anything on film. I think it's better to watch a standard def DVD, which I still have many of from the pre-Blu-ray days. That's going to look better than if you stream it on. It's not just Disney Plus; it's any of the streaming services. I don't know what they do to compress the image or whatever, but none of it looks good.
Yeah, no, it's streaming looks really bad. I remember I went to watch Infinity War once when I didn't have the the 2020 cold, and it looked terrible. And I was like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck happened? This looks so good on Blu-ray." But anyway, it shows you shots of the city
Yeah.
in those 5 years, and it's like a still destroyed baseball stadium. There's piles of crashed, abandoned, empty cars in the street, and it's like you couldn't clean this up in 5 fucking years. You just leave all this shit in the street.
Did you look at that and think that that might have been worth filming with your phone just so that you could post an Instagram reel where you put the caption "Thanks, Kamala" underneath that?
I don't address Indian women. Uh,
Well, I I think that there are a few people who feel that way, but obviously we know that she's half, but we don't.
yeah,
I only brought her up for a joke, Hughezy.
yeah. Well, if you're not in Home Alone 2, then your opinion on her does not matter. Home Alone 2, of course, is better than Home Alone 1.
Well, someone's cut out of Home Alone 2 when they show it on television here. Did you know that?
That's why you gotta buy those Blu-rays,
That's
baby.
right.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And sometimes there's a few VHS that I have to hold on to because the version on Blu-ray isn't the same. Anyway,
Yeah, I heard that Shuley's ex-producer ISO also keeps wanting to hold on to some VHSs, and it's like that's weird. You bring them with you everywhere. You think you would leave them at home?
I do understand that he had them in a drop location, and unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the world, he himself was dropped. So we do get to the exciting scene. I had them mixed up in the order in my head. The support group. Where everybody's talking about it's been 5 years from. I think they don't call it the blip in this movie, right? That's a Spider-Man Far From Home where they start using that term. But they talk about how it's been 5 years that everybody's been gone. And I do agree with you. I do think it's an interesting choice. I guess because they wanted Tony to have enough time to have a daughter. That might be the only reason why they gave it that much time. But a year would have been sufficient. I think it would be like, oh, yeah, everybody's been gone for a year. But if you're going to do 5 years, why don't you do 20 years? I think
Yeah.
that could have been interesting.
Why not 21?
Well, that's too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's like 21 years. Then get over it, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, I believe that's where you believe that's the cutoff for a lady. 20 is good. 21, you got nothing to hear from her.
But they can get a year or two as long as they do that aforementioned shutting of mouth, as we mentioned.
Well, specifically if they're half cyborg, blue-faced Scottish woman like Karen Gillan in this film.
Yeah,
All right.
true.
So, is that your favorite scene that happens in a support group in a movie you've ever seen?
No, clearly someone hasn't seen Anger Management. Someone needs to get a life, which is available now on Blu-ray. No, but I actually didn't mind that support group scene because it does sort of make you see that, okay, well, people are still struggling to get past this thing. Thankfully, there's a gay guy. That's all I cared about.
Well, and by the way, that guy is Jim Starlin, the comic book writer who created Thanos. And so he was probably very excited to be like, oh my God, you're building a whole cinematic universe around Thanos. I created that character. Where's the wheelbarrow full of money that you're going to dump on my desk? And instead they were like, how about you just act in the movie? All right, I guess I'll do that.
Are you sure that wasn't one of the directors?
Well, in that scene is Jim Starlin. I don't know. There's a couple
Oh.
people who speak. So yeah, one of them is one of the Russo brothers, and then there's someone else who speaks in that support group, and that's Jim Starlin.
Homophobe. So we then cut.
So you're saying I just thought that they both look the same is what you're trying to tell me.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. Well, that's why I need my people in these movies to be blue or green. Then I can tell them apart.
So we then cut to a storage room with a bizarre cameo by Ken Jeong. And we get a huge game-changing franchise change. You know, a big cameo from a big dramatic point that really says, wow, that was fantastic writing. that sets the motions of the plot of the story. A rat walks across a fucking button. Like that could have been anything else. That could have just said it was like scavengers breaking in to loot this room, loot this storage room, and they're like, "Oh, it's a van. Let's see if there's anything in it." Some oaf presses the button. Ant-Man comes out. He accidentally takes them all out. You could have like a short action scene. That could have worked instead of a fucking rat walks across a button.
Just imagine if San Francisco, where Scott Lang lives, if it had been a clean city free of vermin and rodents, that would have never happened, and none of the actions, none of the happenings in this movie ever happened. So the movie would end right there. And so since you don't enjoy the film, it would have been like 20 minutes at that point. And great to see our friend Kame Egan in here. Hey, Marvelites. Great to see you, Cammy. Our friend Hughezy here is not a fan of Avengers Endgame, and he's trying to explain to us why. And so far, he makes a strong case. So far, he hasn't touched on any of the scenes that I will have to admit made me cry. But we're not there yet. We're not even close.
We're getting there. So then we cut to an exciting sandwich making scene.
That was good.
And let's just say that as Scarlett Johansson's arms prove that she was method acting. Oh!
Well, I would think that, that is method acting in the sense that I would assume Scarlett Johansson doesn't know how to make a sandwich. I don't think she's made a sandwich in a very long time. So
but
I think
she's
she
married?
had to. Well, yeah, no, I know, but she's married to Colin Jost, and I don't know if his star translates across to Ireland, but let's just say there's only one superstar in that household, and it's not the guy who does the fake news on Saturday Night Live.
There's a lot of fake news out there.
By the way, Kevin Egan is shocked that you don't like this movie, and that's why we're doing this special, because to date, like, I know people that don't love Avengers Endgame. I know people who prefer Infinity War. But Hughezy is the first person I've ever talked to who hates Avengers Endgame. So, but you did point out that Love and Thunder is actually worse, and it's tough when you're picking worst Thor movies. It's almost like who's the least talented member of Rage Against the Machine. Who can say? There's no wrong answer. So. I'm going to clip this and send it to our buddy Trucker Andy.
So not only did we get some great sandwich action in Avengers Endgame, we then also got a scene of a meeting which Black Widow very professionally was going to eat during the meeting instead of, I don't know, waiting, you bitch. But then Brie Larson's acting in this scene when they're all like around the world and they're catching up to see what's going on. Her performance in this scene was really weird. Like, she was playing it like high school bitch.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck's the problem? Like, the raccoon asked you, where have you been? And she's like, oh, I've got to help people in other planets. It's like, shut up, you fucking bitch.
Yeah. We only care about Earth, Carol. Yeah, she does give off very strong Mean Girl vibes, and I don't mean the general Mean Girl. I mean the film Mean Girl, not the recent version, but the classic from 2004 with Lindsay Lohan. Yeah, she would fit in. She would have fit in perfectly with that crowd.
They should have called her Cuntin Marvel. Then we get to a sequence where Paul Rudd comes in and there's a payoff for that sandwich. Let's be honest.
That's true.
Always good time for sandwich comedy in a film that had a children die at the start. So there's this completely pointlessly long sequence where we now catch up with Tony Stark, who's now weirdly his hair's gone blonde because he would never go grey.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong there.
Yeah, so we get back there. We now discover he has a child, which means that he immediately impregnated Pepper Potts that night that he came back from space, even though he was very malnourished, but he had no food in the system, but he certainly put the sausage into hers. Oh! So they have a kid and all this stuff. The Avengers say to him, "Oh, we need your help. You Lima can help us." Tony Stark says, "No, I don't want to help. I'm moved on." And here's the twist, Christian. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
He changes his mind and helps them.
Well, because of the counseling of a good woman, Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, can convince any man to change their mind about anything. And case in point, I believe she sells some candles with interesting fragrances. Cami Egan would like you to tell us how you really feel about Captain Marvel.
I think Captain Marvel in that scene is the human version of what Gwyneth Paltrow's candles smell like. Yeah, but that whole sequence. So this is a 3 hour long film.
Yeah,
That's
and we're like not even 30 minutes in. Maybe I'm guessing it runtime wise, we're definitely under 40 minutes at this point because this is all set up. Everything that we've talked about so far is still set up.
yeah, and this whole sequence was like 10, 15 minutes that could have been trimmed out. Like it was like nobody was thinking, oh my god, well, like you watch the opening scene and you know, well, oh, we know we're not going to kill Tony Stark, and then this scene you're like, well, we know he's going to rejoin, so immediately you're like, this is not good. This is really bad. So then they cut to a scene that just fucking annoys me because when I was a kid, my four favorite heroes were Batman, the Punisher, Spider Man, and the Hulk. And I have a theory about what Marvel's doing with the Hulk. I think they're literally trying to destroy it so that it means nothing to Universal, who will then sell them the rights for, well, maybe not nothing, but will sell them the rights to Hulk because it's like in Avengers 1, there was this amazing scene where Black Widow tries to speak to Bruce Banner and he hits the table like that and she jolts back and she's so afraid and pulls out her gun that you can see like tears in her eyes. Not because she's a woman, but she's so terrified of the Hulk where you think, holy shit, what a great job. So what have they done by Avengers 4? He's fucking eating, doing rapper signs for photographs with kids, and it's like, this is fucking unbelievably shit.
The reveal of Smart Hulk was really something in this, and it took some getting used to. I do think you're right that there is this notion of trying to devalue properties that are held by other studios. For a time, Marvel canceled the Fantastic Four comic book series. It hadn't been selling well, but also there was like they wanted no buzz for Fox to think like, well, let's try one more. You know, you can't possibly get it wrong 4 times, so let's just try one more time. But Fox was going to rush a Daredevil movie at least into some kind of production, so they didn't lose the rights. And they were just like, what are we doing here? No, let's just let Marvel have it back. And they did a tremendous job with the character and were able to bring the Punisher to us. As a kid, I was a tremendous fan of Frank Castle, the Punisher. And it took a little while, but I think we finally got a good one of those. Sam Bibley's in the chat, which tells me that no one else is streaming right now who might be providing content that Sam and some other people might want to dabble in. And he's just talking about, I think that the Hulk was giving rapper signs. Those weren't gang signs because he's green, so he could be neither a Blood nor a Crip. I think that Sam obviously is from the mean streets. That's why his avatar is Master Shake. I mean, do you like the notion of Smart Hulk, or do you think that perhaps they might have done some irreparable harm to the character by turning him into that version of the Hulk?
I absolutely hated Smart Hulk. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to always force me to go out grocery shopping with her during the day, and it was under the agreement that okay, but as soon as we get in, the Incredible Hulk TV show is going to be on, and I get to watch it all. And that's that. So, every episode was like he's fucking transforming. Yes, this is great. By making him Smart Hulk, they've taken away the great part of him slowly losing his mind and turning into this monster. Like that's what when they did that in Avengers 1, I thought that's the greatest version of the Hulk I've ever seen.
I
And so
agree.
of course they were like, "Oh, this was good, but we don't own him. Okay, let's give him a tiki bar in a comedy TV show."
Well, now that I think is in She-Hulk that he has the tiki bar, but yes, that I believe is not in here. But yeah, the television series, The Incredible Hulk. We've talked a couple of times here on Geekscape to Kenny Johnson, who created that. He also did the science fiction miniseries V, and he is very well thought out about, sort of the Hulk character. And I think he had an understanding of it. He does not appreciate things like Smart Hulk. Because I
Yeah,
did ask him what he thought, and he hasn't seen the movies that they've done, not the Ang Lee classic, not the Edward Norton classic. He's seen neither of those. But in any case, let me just Sam Bibley has a compliment, so I have to keep filibustering my friend Hughezy. Christian, you should think more highly of yourself. I would choose your show over many other streamers. Yeah, but not all of them. We know the ones that are more worth watching. He's not from the mean streets. He's from the deep country. We don't even have streets. They have numbered routes. All right,
there
but
you go.
it's mean routes. All right, QZ.
But the other thing about the Smart Hulk that really annoys me is it's just adding to the budget. And it's like,
Oh,
you just could have had Bruce Banner, and not that Marvel was hurting for cash, but it's like you could have simply had Mark Ruffalo there, and it wouldn't have been like $500,000 per second or whatever it would have taken. I just thought it was such a bad idea. But we then get to where instead of Tony Stark's help, Bruce Banner is going to test the time travel thing himself. Uh, and it's awful. This whole sequence should have been edited out, like literally deleted and never gone public. Uh, this could have been, yeah, fucking hell.
I'm just for our audio audience. We're looking at Smart Hulk right now. I don't know how those glasses are able to stay on that face. I feel like if he turns his head slightly, it should shatter. But I don't want to pick holes into stuff like that, Hughes.
But yeah, but what happened in this time travel test scene is that this was the exact type of shit that Marvel started doing a lot in everything for the next few years, where they're going for really broad, silly comedy, and they're really like says, "Oh yeah, but we do funny stuff too, right?" And it's like, but what's happening? How does this advance in the story at all? Because shockingly, and get ready for this, Christian, you'll never believe it. Tony Stark turns up and rejoins the Avengers. You're like, what? Oh my god, no!
Yeah, that is like a season finale of the show Entourage,
Yeah.
where you were convinced that Vince wasn't going to get the movie, and I don't know what we're going to do this summer. Oh my gosh! And then at the end, he's like, "Well, guys, I got the movie. We're
And
gonna go," and everybody just like loses their shit. And Johnny Drama's like, "We got to get on the plane right now." So yeah, it does. I don't like. I call those entourage reveals when I'm thinking of a movie sometimes, where I'm like, all right, yeah, we knew. I mean, there's no movie if Tony doesn't show up. He's like, yeah, I guess we want to do that. By the way, Beyond Soul says love from India,
no,
and
thank you.
uh, well, I of course always appreciate that, and I guess they thought that your name Hughezy is short for Hugh, and
Racist.
shouting them out. Yeah, it's he's the H man. That's
Yeah.
really what he should be letting people know.
So of course it's time to get Thor back into the film. The last time we seen him was a very dark and brooding Thor. in
He
Thor.
beheaded Thanos.
Yep,
Yeah.
right after Thanos killed his brother in front of him and pretty much killed more than half of the surviving Asgardians. In
Correct.
the third one, Thor 3, his dad was killed, or his dad died, and Thor 2, his mother died. So he's been through this really dark path. So you're like, okay, we're gonna get this really dark, intense Thor that's really gonna set up some really incredible scenes and storytelling. Oh no, he's in a funny argument with the gamer, and he's like, oh, it's funny Thor, and he's wearing winter gloves indoors for some reason, and you know that he's fat because he's not wearing a shirt indoors because how else would we know if he's fat if he had clothes on? Everybody knows if you live in a small seaside fisher town area, you take your shirt off. This is fantastic writing. This film made me hate Chris Hemsworth.
How did you feel about him before this?
I liked him mostly.
Okay.
Though I seen him in that Michael Mann film Black Hat, and it's like, you're a fucking arsehole. Like you're not a good actor. You're good as Thor. Everything else he does outside of Thor is shit or is not successful.
Oh.
Apart from Men in Black 4,
I was
thank
just
God
gonna
for
say
that.
you clearly didn't see Men in Black, where he and Valkyrie took over as the MIBs. When people talk about that Men in Black, I refer to it as the good one. That's
Yeah.
that Men in Black, and you know which Ghostbusters is the good one when I say the good one. So you know.
Oh yeah. So we've got Thor is completely ruined, and for some reason, but this is Chris Hemsworth, despite the fact that he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's got this very successful film career. He's got a family. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got all this stuff that's going for him. But he's like, yes, but I want people to think I'm funny. I'm not getting it. But it's like, but you're not funny. This goofy comedy Thor fucking stinks. So every scene Thor's in for the majority of this film is really bad. But we'll get to that in a minute. One character change that I did love, and I thought this is what the film should have been for everybody, is when we find out that Hawkeye is now basically, well, not the Punisher, but he's now going by the name Ronin,
Yes.
and he's learned Japanese,
Yep.
and he's gone to Japan to take out the Yakuza. I love that because that actually makes sense that if you've seen your kids, well, not seen them, but if your kids and your family have been killed by this bad guy, his character change made sense, and that he was like, right, fuck this, I'm not playing it safe anymore, everybody has to go.
Well, in all the years that since I've seen this movie and I'm aware of the Ronin persona from the comic books, I never really thought that it is literally Frank Castle's origin story. You know,
Mm.
he sees, at least the one that they had. I don't know what his origin story is now. But the mob guns down his family in Central Park. And so then that makes him take up the mantle of the Punisher. So really, he does have his Punisher moment, and I do think that I did find that interesting. When they did the Hawkeye TV series, I thought it could have worked really well if it was just a flashback to him trying to clean house in Tokyo. Just trying to take everybody out.
Yeah, but I like that, and I thought if there was a way more serious tone for everybody leading into this, that I would have enjoyed it more. But then, because there was the thing, fuck you, Lewis. Then we get to the thing where they're trying to test out this very risky new time travel thing,
Yeah.
and it made sense that Hawkeye was like, "I'll do it,"
Yeah.
because it's like, well, we could die doing this. He's like, "Don't
Yeah.
care."
Yeah. How do you know how much better my life would be if I died trying to test out the time travel? I did like the fact that this film, and it might not be in this exact moment, Hughezy, they did put forth the hot take that Back to the Future is bullshit. And one of the things that people who even liked this movie complained about is the time travel and how time travel works. And there's an issue where we're a long way away from, but where Nebula kills a younger version of herself. And a lot of times in time travel, that means that the future version disappears because you don't exist anymore. But uh, people were getting angry because they're like, well, my made up bullshit science is based on this made up bullshit science. So the made up bullshit science in this movie can't possibly be right. You know, it's like Star Trek or Doctor Who have to be the only, you have to follow one of those paths. And yeah, I can't imagine a DeLorean being able to travel back in time just because you drove 88 miles per hour. That's not very fast, easy. I drive a lot faster than that.
Well, I do always, especially when I'm drinking. But because I need a piss, I need to get home. So I just drive past the children's school when I'm drinking, and everything's fine. Usually it when they're leaving. But the thing about the time travel stuff is they always feel like it needs to be explained in films, and it's boring. Instead, if they could have just had Ant-Man go to Hawkeye, how does this work? And Hawkeye goes, don't know. And Ant-Man goes, yeah, okay. And it's like, okay, that's it. But did you notice, though, in this scene, for no reason, Paul Rudd is suddenly wearing a big baseball cap right out of the blue? Because he visibly has long hair at the back of his head. He must have been doing Ghostbusters or something.
Yeah, that's probably that's probably reshoots. I've seen this movie on the screen 4 times alone, and never noticed that until you just said that right now. But yeah, I would say that he was probably knee deep in Ghostbusters, and not the good one. He wasn't in the good Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, there's so many of the good ones, but then they all get suited up, and this is just a thing that it starts to annoy me these days when I watch stuff, when you can just see money being thrown away, and that they all walk out in white CGI suits because apparently they couldn't. So all the suits are CGI, and they have a Rolling Stones song playing for less than 14 seconds as they walk. It's like, how much money did this fucking shot cost? This is potentially like $2 million. Gone in 14 seconds.
There are times where Disney in particular will just flex their music licensing budget. There was a just absolutely atrocious live action Cruella de Vil film with Emma Stone in it. And I remember going, and it's like got probably 15 of the most expensive classic rock songs in history. And you're like, oh, the movie is absolute garbage. So they figured like, well, let's really try to cover it up with some just including the Rolling Stones, I believe. Yeah. So sometimes they're just like, yeah, you can't always get what you want, but you know what? We'll get 14 seconds of this song.
I thought you were going to say you can try.
I would have, but you know, Hughezy, you will not get what you need. I'm not going to help you with that.
Well, I like Cruella, so you're a bigot. There
weren't enough dogs in the movie for me. I guess that was the problem.
Well, I have to say, this is sort of jumping ahead a lot. Nearly all of this time travel sequence I love.
Okay.
Which is like, I think it's like a whole hour of the film.
It is definitely an hour of the film, and it is my favorite part of the movie. It's like the heist. I like sort of I don't know, however many of them, you know, Ocean's 15 or whatever it is, where they're doing basically the time heist, and they're going back and they're getting the stones, and they're figuring out how to get them. It is the most compelling part of the movie, I think. And I didn't cry once during it. So that's why it's my favorite hour of the movie, Hughezy.
Yeah, I love the fact that there's some like legitimate story twists. And what did I write here? Like, the actual surprise the audience with genuine shocks, good drama, the comedy works, and there's great callbacks. Like that scene with Captain America getting into the elevator with the well, we think they were Shield at the time. It was actually secretly they're Cobra or whatever the name is,
Hydra.
Hydra.
You're thinking of GI Joe, or as I believe it's called across the pond, Action Force, which
Yeah.
is much more manly sounding name than GI Joe.
Joe. Uh, so I thought that that was great. I love the fact that when they're in the time travel, I have to time travel within the time travel. That sort of stuff really adds to the tension of like, holy shit, like what's going on here? Like this
Yeah,
is crazy. Uh, a few nitpicking points where it's like, uh, when they kill off Scarlett Johansson,
yeah,
a Black Widow, it's like right, I get that because realistically, she's not that important to the story. But as we're going to mention later on in the film, uh, when you kill off a character simply because the actor performing that character is getting paid a lot of money, that's a lazy choice. That being said,
yeah. So budget wise, it would have been smarter because there's no way Jeremy Renner was making Scarlett Johansson money. Is that what you're saying?
exactly. Like
Okay.
I heard that she'd been making at least 20 million since Avengers 2.
Hmm.
So she was getting some nice of that Colin Jost money or whatever you said his name was.
That is his name. Yeah.
Also, they haven't really picked up or followed up on the fact that the Ancient One knows that Doctor Strange gave away the stone.
Yeah.
So they just kind of left that plot point hanging. And a lot of the things like with Loki getting away, little did we know a really shit TV show would be coming from that. So at the time, we didn't know that this film was spinning off into other shits. We thought it was just this one shit film. So all that time travel stuff I really like. I like the parts when Steve Rogers is back during the war and he's seeing all the army and he's seeing the soldiers and he's seeing Peggy Carter, the milkers, excuse my French. But
We'll allow it when speaking about the great Captain Carter. You know. So
yeah. So
yeah.
we then once they and of course the part when Nebula, when she malfunctions and because she's back at a time where she actually exists
Yeah.
and her what would you call it, her motor system interferes with the other Nebula. I thought that was a story plot twist masterpiece. I thought that was so. Now you've got Thanos from the past. Doesn't even know these fucking people exist. Now he knows that I'm actually being hunted. That was an incredible twist, I thought, and it was a great way to get Thanos back in to the film, which then immediately dies once they get into the present. We get completely illogical character choices. With this lovely image, yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure you got to see that Scarlett Johansson previously married to Ryan Reynolds, aka Deadpool, and I would say perhaps traded down a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't an upgrade. Is the only point I wanted to make. But I didn't mean to interrupt you with the picture. I was actually going to bring it up in a moment, but I guess my computer was too excited to. Colin Jost has a book that he wrote called "A Very Punchable Face," and it's the funniest thing about him is the title of that book because it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I meant to bring that up shortly, not at this moment.
But we also by this point we've had characters just completely vanish. I can't remember the name. She's the head guard of the Black Panther, played by Michonne from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I do forget what her name is, but yeah, there is some Dora Milaje in here, but we don't really get to see them. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's weird because she's literally on the poster. I can see her screen. She's just above me right here on the screen.
Okoye is her name, is the character. Yeah, she's right over there.
Yeah. that was really weird because they showed that she was like part of the Avengers group now in that meeting. Why
Yeah.
wasn't she part of the story too? Why wasn't she with the team?
That they spend too much money on Rolling Stones songs is what
Exactly.
would tell me. But there. It's a great question. There's not a good answer, and I'm highlighting that Kame knew her name before I did. I don't know why I ever Google things on this show. I just have to wait for the great people in the chat who are much better at providing answers than I could ever hope to be. But yeah, I mean, she even made the Japanese poster, and I'm just gonna say it's not
Yeah.
easy to get yourself included on some of those some of the one sheets for the Asian countries. So yeah, I think that's definitely a missed opportunity. And again, that probably speaks to the I believe it's a 3 hour and 2 minute movie, Avengers Endgame,
Thank God.
or as Zack Snyder would call it, part one.
Yeah. So we then we're back at the Avengers compound. They've got all the stones. They've designed a new gauntlet, an Iron Man type gauntlet, which I have as a gift. I bought it at a Comic Con when I was walking around shock horror, drunk all day, and I
Oh,
I was completely hammered. I bought it. It was like 140 euro, and I thought, fuck it, I want it, and I broke it immediately in the pub afterwards.
so that was the one day you were walking around drunk all day. That's the only time that that's ever happened in your life, is what you're trying to tell me, Hughezy.
On that specific day, that was the
Oh,
one day that I got
that was
drunk.
the one day that day. Yeah. So you had an Infinity Gauntlet, and at least look, you were able to capture it in a photo. So it doesn't even matter that you don't have it anymore, right?
And I still do somewhere, I hope.
Oh, it's just broken.
Yeah, it smells of piss, and I can't go into any more detail.
No, no,
Uh,
no. I don't think you should. And again, for our visual audience, we'll have to, of course, shout out the great Purple Rain Prince and the Revolution T-shirt you were wearing at that moment.
Absolutely. So they designed this gauntlet, and they realize only Hulk can survive this,
Sure.
and
That's a logical plot point. I have no problem with that.
he does. But here's the problem. I've got a plot hole for you.
Okay.
Hulk has two arms. So
I'm listening.
right. So why didn't he then click with the other finger too?
Uh, I think, yeah, I don't know. I guess it has to be the glove that does it. I don't have the answer there. And Sam Bibley says, I said I would comment on the topic, but I'm struggling to find anything to say because Hughezy is only bringing up completely inconsequential points. Sam, I think that's the point to make. If you're thinking that, and look, if you stack small complaints high enough, eventually you're going to be in the stratosphere and you're going to have to say, like, oh, I guess that there are enough of those problems, like with a classic film like 2003's Deadpool with Ben Affleck. Eventually you're going to get to enough problems where it says that. Kemi Egan says nothing goes better with the gauntlet than a pint of Guinness. I don't know if you agree, but that's a tough Chicago lady. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Hughezy.
Though I would actually say the only thing that goes better than a pint of Guinness is 5 pints of Guinness.
There's no wrong answers.
So Thanos has now arrived in the present with his army. There's a big explosion that goes off. The Avengers compound has been destroyed or badly damaged. Iron Man.
By the way, just to interject, that's a tremendous sequence. Is the moment when Thanos from whatever he is, 2012 Thanos comes back and just decimates the Avengers compound. Just sort of that idea of like you kind of look up and you go, "Uh-oh." I thought the level of destruction there I found to be very impressive, and I did like that this Thanos from the past is like, oh man, they've really made this so much easier for me. I don't have to do all the shit that I was planning. There's 10 years of pain. They've really made this so much easier. They're literally going to hand me. I was going to spend the next decade looking for these stones. but these idiots are just gonna have them together in one spot. I guess I'm going there. Nebula, you go pretend that you like these idiots.
Oh yeah. So they have a big action sequence. There's all this stuff. Like it's a pretty good action sequence. Then when it seems like Captain America is about to hold his own against Thanos, his army comes out and there's what maybe like 100,000 people. Like it's like you have no chance. Like you're going to die here. Where all of a sudden you hear Captain, on your left, and the
On your
portal
left.
opens, and you go, "What the fuck is this shit?" It's like, so where have you been? That you're all able to come here from this? Like, were you in the void? Is that where they were? Were they dead? Were they fucking in training for 5 years, thinking, someday someone's going to open a portal and we need to be ready?
Yeah, I don't know where they come back to, but I will tell you, and I have talked about this on past shows. For just the build up to the moment when Sam says "on your left," that was the time that I first realized that my eyes weren't working. They were faulty in some way, and there was far too much moisture in there because there's that moment when you're like, oh my God, I knew everybody wasn't dead, but now they're not. And then we'll get to some kid stuff that, Tony dealing with his daughter. That, had I seen this movie 10 years earlier, I probably was still dead inside. So sometimes parental relationships cause more eye malfunctions. But I love that sequence. The only thing I thought was, where's the portal with the Defenders? Everybody from Hell's Kitchen. Where's Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and yes, the Punisher. They should have all been ready to jump through there. But I think that the lawyers said no.
But the problem with that is there's people coming through the portal who weren't dead. Pepper Potts came through the portal. Okayo came through the portal. It's like, but you weren't dead. How are you coming through this if you're fucking not dead?
I'm going to assume that Pepper's so organized, she had a protocol in place for if everybody shows up, I get to wear the suit, and then we'll see who it is. It does happen fairly quickly. The fact that it doesn't happen instantly does help. I guess Doctor Strange is able to, I don't know, in the late 80s here, there was a very, very poorly developed a syndicated sitcom where a teenage girl could stop time just by putting her fingers together, called Out of This World. So I think Doctor Strange has that ability. So he's able to freeze time. All right, let's train. Everybody's going to join an Equinox gym. We're gonna train like the UFC fighters do. We're gonna get ready, and then I'll unfreeze time, and then we'll actually fight.
So during this whole battle sequence, a whole lot of stuff happens that just made me roll my eyes. So Captain Marvel returns, and she single-handedly takes out Thanos' warship, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, why the fuck weren't you here the whole time? Black Widow's dead because of you.
Do you think that it's possible she was busy auditioning for Fast X, and that's probably why she wasn't there? And then you're going to have to give her a pass on that.
Well, priorities do exist in the real world, so she was right to do such a thing.
Yeah, okay. It's a hunch. I'm not sure if I'm right.
So that happened, and not to get political, because earlier when we were rallying for Trump votes, but the part in the battle sequence where all the female characters just so happen to be there at exactly the same time on the battlefield, and there's this whole big thing where they all get to stand in a line and nobody else around them is touching them. You just think, come on, that's stupid. That's silly pandering crap. And I hate that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, that's again the type of shit that Marvel were going to keep doing for projects to come, where they would do some type of political rah-rah shot where it's like, no, you're making a fun popcorn action film. We didn't need that. We don't need to see all the women together. Just have them side by side with the men and the trees and having a big battle scene. We don't need this group shit.
Yeah, interestingly, because I was doing a version of this show for a network called Popcorn Talk when this movie came out, and my friend and co-host at the time, Zia Anderson, she hated that more than anything else. The moment of all of the female characters, just sort of gathered together. And she was just like, they're trying too hard. I know I'm supposed to like it, and that was exactly why she hated it. I'll give a shout out to Zia_Land. Haven't had her on a show in a while, but she spent some time with the great Chip Chipperson. Yeah. See, Cam Egan, you remember from back then. Zia hated it. Exactly. I didn't even see her comment in there. And you might be shocked, Hughezy, but my friend Zia, she's on OnlyFans, so people can find her over there. And again, I told you that Cam Egan is a tough Chicago broad, as they might say in the city of big shoulders. She also hated the all-female sequence. It tried too hard. If somehow, I don't know how you make it naturally feel like, okay, this makes sense. That would have been fine, but it was almost like, you have all these female characters, so you're gonna have to put them all together at one point. What if Spider-Man wants to help him? No, fuck Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
Spider-Gwen maybe, but not Spider-Man.
But it's stuff like that in anything where it's music or video games or whatever. I just can't stand that sort of political stuff. But then, of course, we get to the big ending where the actor who just so happens to be getting paid the most to be in the film gets the glove.
Wait, Don Cheadle? Don Cheadle? Is that who we're talking? Oh, no, I'm sorry. He was definitely not paid the most. I'm misthinking. Yeah, I'm just I wasn't. I didn't have my head on straight. All right. So yes, the actor who's being paid the most, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he gets the gauntlet, even though he knows it's going to kill him, but it's the only thing he can do. And he clicks his fingers and kills himself while saving everybody else, except for weirdly all the bad guys, which I thought was a very convenient click. I just thought that was, I hated that part because there was other ways around that to get him out of the series. They could have simply had, at the end of the battle, have him be like badly injured and say, I can't do this anymore. I have a parent. I can't keep risking my life. So they could put him on the back burner. So say, well, maybe he does come back down the line. I just thought killing him off was a lazy creative choice. And it's what I would say forced drama. It's like there's this really good filmmaker called Zack Snyder did this flawless film called Man of Steel, where Dances with Wolves. There's a hurricane coming.
Yes.
And Henry Cavill is just like saying, "Come on!" And instead, the fucking Waterworld just looks at him and smiles, and it's like, "No, don't save me." And it's like, that's fucking stupid. He's got super speed. He could have went and got him back, and no one would have noticed the thing. Like, no drama by fucking Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I also would have accepted Yellowstone. Cam Egan wants to know if I saw the Kevin Hart interview with Don Cheadle. It's cringeworthy. I have not seen that, but I'll tell you what, you can look for that next week on Who Are These Broadcasters, because I am sure that there will be a few clips to pull. That sounds great. A relevant comment from Sam Bibley. When they kill Tony Stark, he thinks it's because they were shrewdly trying to save money. When they use a Rolling Stones song, he thinks it's because they don't care about wasting money endlessly. So he's saying you're inconsistent with your budgetary concerns. I will point out, and Hughezy, obviously, I'll give you the opportunity to respond to Mr. Bibley. The cost of a Rolling Stones song is far less than having to pay Robert Downey Jr. for one more movie after this. As we'll discuss when we're done with this wrap up, the fact that getting out of the Robert Downey Jr. business might not have been as easy as it seemed.
Exactly. And the problem with Downey Jr. is that he had gotten to a stage where he was able to ask for so much money that other actors were coming out of their Marvel contracts. So they'd be like, hey, I signed up for 3 solo films and 3 Avengers. We're now on 4. I want to get paid this
Yeah.
much. So it's like, well, if Downey Jr. sticks around, we're going to have to start paying everybody 40 million or 50. Downey Jr. get paid something like $27 million for Spider-Man Homecoming. He's in it for 7 minutes.
Imagine having to pay Chris Hemsworth more than he's worth. What would you say would be a dollar amount that is more than Chris Hemsworth is worth?
I would say for Thor, give him
Yeah, say Thor 5.
5 million.
Okay.
And I would say
pretty sure I'm pretty sure he wouldn't even be in like the end credit scene for 5 million. So they might have to give him some more.
5.1.
Okay. Now he's in.
But speaking of big stars, we get to, of course, Peter Quill, played by Chris Pratt. Now, I don't know if you've seen the talk online that one of the things that's holding up his return to Marvel is that since he was cast as Peter Quill, Chris Pratt's had a lot of really big, successful films. He did the Jurassic World trilogy, and each one kept getting better, as we all know.
Yeah, I took my kids to see Garfield, and he's also in Super Mario Brothers. So obviously, he's the voice of a generation, Hughezy.
All 3 of those Jurassic Worlds and Mario made over $1 billion. Yeah. And he was in the show The Terminal Man on Amazon Prime, if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that, no.
Well, basically, it's about a soldier who has discovered he's got a brain tumor, and that it's, spoiler alert, he figures out that it was implanted in him, not a natural one. So he's investigating who did it. It was a huge hit to film in season 2. He's getting paid a fortune for it. It is good.
Why doesn't he do the rational thing when you find out you have a brain tumor and start cooking and selling meth? I think that's what everybody should do. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
But I just think that they really blew a moment of Peter Quill coming to Earth. And like I understand that it's Avengers, you need to have everybody here. But they could have at least done a space battle on top, like in the stars, at least.
But so much of that last part of the movie, it's like setting up the idea that we all thought we were going to get a Guardians movie with Thor, and instead the Guardians are just in a little bit of Thor 4 and they can't wait to get rid of him. I thought a Guardians movie with Thor would have been amazing. There were some issues with James Gunn that Disney was unhappy with him and parted company with him just long enough for him to take over the Distinguished Competition's entire future. So I'm sure he's thankful for whoever dug up those tweets of his from like 2009 or whatever that led to Disney originally firing him before rehiring him. But after he'd already gone to work for DC, and they go, oh no, they're in good hands now. That could be an issue. But anyway, sorry.
So then we get to the funeral scene, which I consider, like, if you wanted confirmation of how top secret this was, Jesus Christ, this should have been a much bigger production, this scene, compared to the rest. But instead, it's just like shot out the back of someone's fucking river.
Well, and apparently they did not tell Tom Holland that that's what the scene was, because he's apparently very bad at keeping secrets.
Well, he's English.
Actually, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Hughesy's finally making some sense after an hour and 15 minutes here. So I think that I don't know what they told him. Maybe they told him it was Natasha's funeral. But spoiler alert, Natasha never gets a funeral. They have this really dramatic moment. It's very somber, and at no point are they like, oh yeah, Natasha's dead too, so we miss her as well. And there's, for a visual audience, there is Tom Holland looking straight ahead, not sure who's dead, but he's like, all right.
And I thought it would have been good if Hawkeye went up to Captain America and goes, by the way, I forgot to tell you, Red Skull's still alive. So it's very sad that he's dead.
Just so
Like,
you know, yeah.
what, you know, so, one of the things they did at the
Sorry,
back,
Sam Bibley's got a great joke that before we move on, they filmed an all-girl funeral scene, but it got cut. Yeah, so that's what it was. The ladies all went to Natasha's funeral, but the guys were like, "We're kind of cried out. We're too bummed about Tony. Let's just let them go." I'm sorry. Go ahead.
uh, so then they had the cameo of the kid from Iron Man
Oh my
3,
god. Yeah.
which was really weird. And not to get all political again, but they're doing Ironheart. If they'd
Yeah.
have just thought ahead and they'd have made the kid in Iron Man 3 a black girl, then
Yeah.
that could have easily been her. They could have
Yeah,
brought
so
her.
if the kid in Iron Man 3 had been Riri Williams, then Black Panther Wakanda Forever might have been 25 minutes shorter. So,
eh,
uh,
or better.
well, that's for you to say and me to agree with. I didn't love Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
And that was the first time. And look, there had been some doozies that Marvel had done, but Wakanda Forever, I was like, huh, I don't think I love this. Same as when I saw The Last Jedi. It was the first time I saw a Star Wars movie when I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
huh, I didn't love that. What happened? Anyway, I don't want to open that can of worms. That's for a different show.
And my final big complaint was
Yes,
how
sir.
I would have sort of slightly edited the ending. Where that say I would not have had Steve Rogers turn up to hand over the shield to Falcon.
Yeah.
I would have simply had them going. You know, Captain America travels back in time, and there's says, right, bring him back now, and there's no one there, and they're sort of thinking, well, where the fuck is he?
Yeah.
And then I would have ended the film just as they did. He goes back in time. We go back to the whenever, and he's there dancing with Peggy, and I would have had him feeling her up because, come on, Haley Atwell's got a fart box on her. So I thought him sort of retiring the role because, again, he was getting paid a lot of money. So it was
Sure,
like, right,
of course.
anyone who's getting too much has to go. We've got to focus on Thor 4. That's what the people really want. And I just thought that, especially because when you see the Captain America and Falcon TV show or the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV
Yes.
show, it's crap. I didn't like it at all.
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
Steve Rogers became Captain America because he was injected with a super serum. In the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Falcon becomes Captain America because he runs around his house really quickly. That's all he had to do to become Captain America. I thought it was such a disappointing film. I just thought it was full of forced drama, stupid, illogical character choices, and I was just sitting there the whole time going, thankfully it'll get better than this next time. And then sadly it was to be a rough future phase of Marvel. I overall I would give this a 2 out of 5. I was very disappointed with Avengers Endgame.
So you would only give it 2 Infinity Stones. Yeah, so you'll keep the other 3 in your pocket for a better film, like perhaps the great Thor 5, which maybe we'll get one day. I wanted to bring in an earlier comment from Sam Bibley. I agree with Hughezy overall because I don't like Endgame. I agree with Hughezy overall because I don't like Endgame, but I agree with Christian on specific details because I think Hughezy is focused on the wrong things. I mean, there's no wrong things. These are the things that bothered you when you saw it. And I feel like I'm just a sucker because I saw this and I was excited. I felt like I'd invested 22 movies at this point. I had invested years into these characters long before that. And I feel like it delivered. And it wasn't, it was like there's loss. There's nothing worse than oh, look, everybody's okay, And it's like, and I snapped again. And then Natasha was back and Tony's not really dead. So I liked that there were some stakes from it. I did find it odd. The only reason why they had 5 years and they couldn't go back to before that was because Tony had a kid. And spoiler, Tony, even if they had gone back and they had undone all the depression and all the terrible things that Thanos did, you were still going to knock up Pepper. All right. It would have
Yeah.
been fine. You still would have had your kid.
Yeah, that's why, like, I always my problem with this film, much like, well, one of the reasons why I didn't like Logan, one of the big problems I had with Dark Knight Rises, it's like, but we know this isn't the end. Like,
Yeah.
if this was the final, if Marvel says, yeah, Endgame will be the last time we ever make a film, you'd be like, well, okay then.
Yeah.
But we knew that, like, what was it? Spider Man came out a month or two after.
It was a couple of months. It was this was in summer. You know what? They were both summer. So yeah, this was May, and I think that was July. You're right. Yeah, they did both come. It came out very shortly thereafter. Yeah.
So we already had that follow up, and weirdly, the fucking Spider Man trailer was playing before this film in the cinema. So, not to be like, we all knew Spider Man wasn't dead, but
Yeah.
it was like there was a lot was given away. So I was
Yeah, there's a lot of images of Iron Man and stuff in that trailer that people figured, oh, okay, so Iron Man's not going to survive that. Yeah. Well, I disagree wholeheartedly with your fundamental point, but individual items, as you check them off, Hughezy, it is hard to disagree. I think that perhaps they could have done an Infinity trilogy, and then maybe you get some of the sequences, some of the characters who disappear during parts of this. We could have gotten a lot more. I again would have liked a lot more of Clint as Ronan, but
mm,
this is not my favorite MCU movie. I think that this is great. I still am a sucker for the first Captain America movie because I feel like it just operates on like an actual, like, this is a movie that happens to fit into this cinematic universe with superheroes and all this stuff. The actual story of Captain America does stand alone. I mean, there's the flash forward at the beginning, I guess, of them finding Steve in the ice. But, for the most part, the actual content of the film, it works. It's a great movie. It's one of the best single stories that they told. And yes, Haley Atwell's in it. But it's the first time we got to see Chris Evans with his shirt off. And come on, Hughezy. If there's a reason to like a movie, that's it.
absolutely. That's why I buy the Blu-ray so you can pause. But yeah, but my whole thing is then. But where is Steve Rogers? He's still alive.
The old Steve Rogers, I guess, goes back to be with Peggy, is my guess. So he doesn't hang around. I assume, but it's a good question. I don't have the answer. I don't think we'll ever see him again, and I do like that it's become the meme of Sam saying, "You want to tell me what you did?" And he's, no, I don't think I will. And I use that something very recently. So I love that I can just type in, "I don't think I will," and that comes up as a meme. So that is the proof of a great film, Hughezy, if it is meme worthy. There were a few questions that came up earlier that I wanted to try and stay semi-focused. Kemi Egan wants to know, we talked about the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was getting too expensive, so they had to kill Tony. But then the next few years had the previous few years happened. Oh, sorry. That was the point I was going to make. The timing of this, the fact that we got this movie in 2019. Imagine if they'd been a year behind schedule and the pandemic gap of having movies come out was between Infinity War and Endgame. I thought about that a number of times during the pandemic. I'm like, well, at least we got Endgame. We got the end to our movie. It would have, it was fine that we had to wait a little while for Black Widow. But anyway, Hughezy wanted to know what you thought about this idea that Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Doctor Doom. We've done whole episodes about that on this channel, on this show. But what are your thoughts, Hughezy?
I'm cautious. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be there opening day, but I hope this doesn't mean that Doctor Doom is then taking his mask off.
He's probably going to take it off a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's only Tom Hardy's going to wear a mask for the whole movie. And Beyond Soul, who I think left in a huff after this comment, Robert Downey Jr. will be in Doom in another multiverse. Spoiler: Doctor Strange will have a cameo in the end. Uh, yeah, I think it works better if he's a one-off Doctor Doom, and then there's an actual Victor Von Doom in this
mm,
timeline. See, Cam Egan, his opinion was perfectly rational. I think it's what everybody's thinking is it's not like he's going to be bad in the role. It's why did you hire him to do it? There are
yeah.
plenty of other actors. Christoph Waltz hasn't been in an MCU film yet. That would have been perfect for him. And Lewis Berry says, I hope Evans Captain America comes back for Secret Wars. I think you're more likely to see Chris Evans Human Torch again, even after what Cassandra Nova did to him. I feel like you were about to
Mm.
say something, Hughezy. Sorry.
No, I just think that with one of the problems is that you hear about the money Downey Jr.'s making, so they wrote him out of the franchise because he was making too much. The problem is Downey Jr. in between this went on to win an Oscar in a massive grossing, like I think it's the highest grossing drama in history,
I think you might be right.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he then had ultimate bargaining power at a time when they didn't have a big villain left because of accusations. So
Yeah.
so Downey Jr. basically came back for the money that he would have made had he done another Iron Man performance instead.
Yeah. Also, if they had loved, if audiences had embraced the Eternals, if they were
Mm.
so excited for us to get the Pip the Troll standalone film, if we were getting Harry Styles as Star Fox, all the things that people might forget have been teased in recent phases. And if the Marvels had been a tremendous success, I don't think any of this ever happens, but I think they feel like they lost their way a little bit, and it's going to get out of hand if you don't reset now. So that's why they had to do it. Still back on Endgame, Sam Bibley says Thanos' inability to conceive of a solution to limited resources beyond Malthusian genocide, despite his godlike powers, mirrors the ideological blinders of a capitalist society confronting hunger, etc.
Yeah,
I'm going to
stop.
take that word for word and super chat that to John Melendez later today and see if he can read it better than I can. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I would say stop quoting Billy Madison.
Yeah, I think that there's other solutions for hunger in the world than let's get rid of half the people.
Yeah,
Some would say get rid of 90% of the people. It'd be even better. As long as
yeah.
Hughezy and I get to stick around. That's the important thing. So if so the time heist part of the movie you don't seem to hate. You seem to feel like that part works for you, because that was one of the things I wanted to end on is what did you like about the movie? But there's a whole sequence that you did actually enjoy, right?
Yeah, that whole hour, it was just like there's so many twists and shocks and scenarios where like when Captain America catches time travel Captain America and he thinks it's Loki because earlier Loki can transform into thing. All
Yeah.
that stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
The I can do this all day. I know. Yeah, I do love that interaction. Yeah. So yeah, well, again, we don't have to agree, but we can, we could also do this with what is the worst Fast and Furious film? Are you able to objectively look at one that doesn't work for you? Or maybe let me put it differently. What's the least brilliant Fast and Furious? So eight or nine? It's
yeah.
nine. Okay.
9 is the one where he literally time travels and they go into space.
Yeah, it's fine when the Avengers do it, but Dominic Toretto shouldn't do it. What about Hobbs and Shaw?
Hobbs and Shaw is either the worst film I've ever seen or the greatest popcorn action film ever made. I can't
Yeah,
decide.
it's a fine line. I noticed that you sent me a message that you stumbled across Madam Web on Netflix, where it belongs. Had you didn't see that in the theater, did you, or did you go to have a cinematic experience that you would never forget?
I actually seen it in the cinema because I usually take my mom to the cinema on Fridays or
Right.
Thursdays, and that was out, and we went to see it in 4DX, and it was completely pointless. When not a lot of action, the 4DX rarely came into experience.
Well,
It's
that's only because they kept Sydney Sweeney in a sweater the whole time. I think the 4DX would have been worth it if she was presented as Sydney Sweeney is usually presented.
the creepiest part of that film, and it's one of these ones that I don't know why people don't really speak about more. When Madam Web is teaching the three girls how to do CPR, but the place where they put the camera is behind the girls' heads.
Oh
So
no.
all you see is their heads bobbing up and down like
Oh
that. And I
no.
just remember watching that thinking like that's really the shot you went for? And it happened 3 times. And it wasn't supposed to be like funny. I just thought in my opinion, Madam Web wasn't good.
That is a hot take, one that we have not necessarily made on this channel, or perhaps we have made every day since Valentine's Day when it came out. Guardian Studio says Endgame is good, but Infinity War was better. Sam Bibley brings up a point that I wasn't smart enough to think of on my own. It doesn't apply to the comic book version, what he was saying of the Infinity War. Why Thanos was committing genocide just to impress his crush is a superior story. So the embodiment of death is a female character in the comic books, and Thanos loves her so much. He's like, well, death is going to have to love me if I kill half the people. Yeah, trying to put a rational explanation on it does take away some of the fun of like, oh, you mean this girl is going to like me if I kill half the people? Well, sign me up. So anyway, well, what do you feel about what's on tap for the MCU? We've got a Fantastic Four movie. We've got Captain America with Red Hulk. We've got Agatha Comes Along on Disney Plus in just 2 short weeks. What are you excited about out of those things, Hughezy?
I'm expecting to be disappointed by anything that comes out in 2024. Because this was still before the Deadpool success came out and made Marvel realize, right, okay, we do have to change. Captain America 4 looks great, but have you like I'm sure you've heard, I'm sure, about how many times they've done expensive reshoots. Like Disney's going to lose a lot of money on this film, regardless of what it does.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm
Well,
worried.
to bring it to the manly world, it's like by the time that Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy came out, it was not going to be successful because they had
Mm,
recorded and discarded it. I don't know, 10 times over the previous decade and a half. And spoiler alert, it stinks. So it also wasn't successful because every song on it is not good. So my point is Captain America Brave New World might just be the Chinese Democracy of the MCU. And Hughes, you heard it here first.
mm. But the thing that's interesting is because there's a pro wrestler called Seth Rollins
Mm-hmm.
who was cast as the villain in Captain America 4, and he was fuck, what were they called? The Skrulls or the something?
Yeah. Yeah, the
He
scrolls are the shapeshifters. Did you not see the award-winning series on Disney Plus, Secret Invasion?
he was he was meant to be a royal Skrull, and allegedly his entire role has been rewritten, and it's been taken into a more of a old school action film. So that I'm looking forward to, and the Thunderbolts could be great because it
Yeah.
just seems quite different to anything they've done before.
Did you see the leaked trailer for Thunderbolts that still isn't out there?
Uh, no, I have actively avoided any Comic Con or Disney or
It, it
D23 leaks.
it looks fun. I think having Red Guardian involved has the comedic relief that we might need. Anyway, Husey, well, we will always look to you, especially when there's a universally beloved film and you tell me it stinks. We'll have to do one of these for Logan at some point. The next time there's a lull on the Marvel release calendar. Just a final thought from Sam Bibley on that. They changed Thanos from the Mad Titan, which is what he was known as in the comics, to a stern ideologue. Yeah, I like the idea that bad guys do crazy shit because they're crazy. Having Thanos be more like the Joker could have worked better. But speaking of Jokers, if people want to get more Hughezy, where do they go to find that?
I'm at the Hughezy on Twitter, at the Hughezy on Instagram. My YouTube channel is Hughezy Entertainment. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. We've do a lot of director roundtables. I would do a quick cheap plug for tonight. We're live streaming an episode. Does Nirvana stink? I am not a fan of Nirvana.
I know you're not. Let me ask you, because I know you're also not a fan of Green Day. Which one stinks more, Nirvana or Green Day? Green Day has more output because all three members remained alive beyond their initial first wave of fame. So the body of work could work against them.
Yeah, Green Day stinks more.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I
Yeah.
wanted to know where you were at on that.
So we will be live streaming that tonight. I'm also going to have a couple of brewskis. I'm in the mood. And I also want to do a plug for our mutual friend Annie's show. What game is
What
this?
game is this? Yeah, WGITS is her YouTube channel, right? Yeah.
I think so.
It stands for what game is this? Yeah.
Because I think in the December episode, I'm going on and we're going to review the Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out for the PlayStation 5. It was a fucking masterpiece, and it sold about 6 copies. So
wow,
I couldn't believe it.
That's surprising, especially like people could have found it as the Guardians got even bigger. But I appreciate that, and thank you to Sam and Kame Egan and everybody who was here in the chat. That was always great. So the next episode of this show will be next Friday the 13th. I should probably come up with a Friday the 13th themed stream for later on that day. But Eric Connor, David Brody, and myself, we're going to review season 2 of Hit Monkey, which is on Hulu. And it's taken a while to actually get that on the books, mostly because I didn't start watching it until last night. So it's my fault. But we'll do that. And we will also be getting to Agatha Comes Along. And I had to reschedule an interview I tried to do earlier in this week, which is called the No Prize episode. And hopefully people who were there for that remember. Kame Egan, I know you were there. Hope they enjoyed that. So we've got plenty of content in the weeks and months ahead. And then, Hughezy, I feel like we might need to talk to you again right around the release of Deadpool, The Last Dance. That might be the time to talk to you. I think it comes out on sorry, not Deadpool. I said Deadpool. Venom 3, The Last Dance. I know I said Deadpool, and that was me wishing. Sorry, Venom, The Last Dance. I was looking for the release date. It's October 24th. So that might be the time to talk to you about a great work of cinematic achievement. Deadpool is not in it. Venom 3, Venom The Last Dance. So we got lots of stuff coming up. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. Thanks again to Hughezy and everybody in the chat. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!